There were a couple teams that we wanted to touch on. We get a chance to last week, which were Winnipeg and Carolina. I know Connor has his peer prospect evaluation model that he wants to introduce to us as well. And then maybe we can chat about who the Canucks could be targeting with their 10th overall pick. Do they go for the best player? Do they go for a positional need? Do they try to fill both, sort of like they've done the last 2 years? I feel like that'll be a pretty good flow, though. So does anyone want to start with Winnipeg or Carolina, how those teams were built, what you find impressive about them, and what they may need to do to reach that next level of sort of advancing even further in the playoffs?
Connor, you
I guess, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I think Winnipeg is one of those really, really, really interesting test cases because like every single move that they've kind of done since they relocated from Atlanta in 2011, like I think everyone can agree like they made like really, really smart and good choices. There are things that they really couldn't control, whether it's, the Trouba situation where maybe it's kind of a geographical thing where he doesn't necessarily want to stay in Winnipeg. That's kind of hampering them moving forward because he's such an important piece to that team. But you can't argue that they haven't put together like a tremendous team. They've gotten value. Like Trouba was ninth overall. Connor was 10th overall. You can go down the list. Scheifele at 7 or 6. I can't really remember. Ehlers at 9. Like they're getting guys like almost in that mid round, like obviously still in like the top 10, but just like later in that top 10 who have all hit and they're just good, like really, really good players. Josh Morrissey, another guy, 13th overall. Like,
yeah, he's great, man.
And they have, and again, like those, I wouldn't say those fringe guys, but those support players, Blake Wheeler, who they got in, through the relocation, Dustin Byfuglien, like these guys, like are really good players. And then obviously we didn't even talk about, I guess, their one true sniper in Patrick Laine, who's an interesting case that we'll talk probably about in future episodes in terms of the RFA stuff. But
we'll talk about it now, believe me.
I guess we can, like, but I think overall, like, you can't argue the way that they've constructed this team. Like, they're big, they're fast, they're skilled. They have a good goaltender in Connor Hellebuck, who's big and blocks a lot of the net. I mean, he may have gotten exposed a little bit in the St. Louis series in terms of maybe his east-west play or maybe getting bodies in front to tip pucks past him. But you can't really fault him too much on that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Landon, you can go for it.
Okay, I'm just looking at the salary cap right here, and shout out to capfriendly.com, great website.
Love capfriendly,
fantastic website.
Yeah, it's not the worst. So basically, they've signed some real smart deals. I mean, I think Scheifele at 6.1 until 24-25 is that's the break. That's
robbery.
The break that they got where they can afford to make a couple mistakes and still be okay. Kind of what maybe the Canucks could use here coming up in the next couple of years, considering they've already had some mistakes and don't necessarily have that steal other than maybe Bo Horvat if he continues his progression. But I mean, they've kind of handled their cap in a pretty smart situation here. Maybe paying Hellebuck a little bit too much for a goalie, but you can't really complain since he, I think, was nominated for the Vezina a couple of years.
He had such a good year, right? Like, what could you even do?
And I think one of the things that I was kind of talking about last episode was identities, kind of building with a theme, building with a purpose. Which I guess I got roasted for because I called the Leafs out for not having an identity, but I really like Winnipeg's identity. And one of the questions that I was kind of thinking about going into this year's playoffs was everyone kind of seemed to already like accept that the NHL is smaller. We're moving towards more skilled, smaller guys. That's the way of the new look NHL. Well, I don't think that that's fully happened yet because look at the two teams in the finals, Bruins, the Blues. Those are two big teams, gritty teams. Winnipeg is much like them, and I think had they not run into the hottest team in the whole year since the 2019 started, Winnipeg would probably be representing the West right now, maybe. But
you could argue that
they built a team with a lot of big guys who are strong and. Like, Byfuglien from the back end is an absolute monster. Wheeler as their
Monster.
captain, 6'5". He's huge. Mark Scheifele, I think he's about 6'3". Like, they've really stuck to an identity and a theme towards building towards big, strong guys. And I don't know. It seems like that.
But on top of that, all those guys can like skate and move
exactly,
too.
Like, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're not just drafting a bunch of John
hybrids.
Scotts, because that would get them absolutely nowhere. But yeah, you're right. So I guess I didn't really say that before, but the skill, but more importantly, huge monsters that they've kind of collected over the year really gives them a nice core moving forward. Ryan, I'll pass this one on to you if you have anything to add to what me and Connor just said.
That's on point. All their players are hybrids of, a game that we thought was trending out and a game that we believe is trending in. And I think that's where the key to success lies is sort of
somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, building a focus around acquiring both of those things and making sure that you're balanced. I think a really good way to describe Winnipeg is balance. And in just like you said, their back end is comprised of very large physical guys who can impose their will, but who can also run a power play, pass the puck. Morrissey's kind of that smaller puck-moving transitional guy, and then they've got Kulikov, who's more stay-at-home, and of course Bufflin is just a legend in every sense of the term. A couple more things with Winnipeg is that this year they have 3 draft picks, a 2, a 4, and a 5. They don't have their own 1 or their own 3. They don't have their own 6 or their own 7. So they kind of did go all in, but they've maintained a lot of their future assets. Like next year and the year after, they've got a 1st, a 2nd, and a 3rd. So they didn't completely clean house. But with their $25 million in projected cap space for next year, how much are Laine and Connor going to eat up of that right away? Like, I think 18.
Do you think Hayes is gone
like
too?
Significantly.
Do you think Hayes is gone for sure as well? Or?
Yeah, I think Hayes is a rental just because I don't think they can afford to keep him, because what does Kyle Connor make? Like, he's such a great two-way player, and he was a catalyst for them offensively for a good chunk of the season. Even though they've got those horses in Scheifele and Wheeler, but Connor was scoring big goals for them.
Connor was better than Laine.
Yeah, there's no way they get him there's no way they get him like on a deal. There's no way.
No. I think you could argue that Connor deserves to be paid just as much, if not more, than Laine after their past 2 seasons. But I think both of them combined are going to be making around 16 to 18 million.
Oh yes, yeah.
Which only leaves them with 5 to 7 million of cap space, right? I mean, it doesn't really. There's no real room for them to improve, even with that Scheifele deal. Thank God they're on that deal.
Yeah, Ehlers
there's
a little bit of a mistake as well, I would say.
A little bit, but they paid almost for his potential more than his actual production,
right? It's not like he's done growing yet either. So I mean, he could improve and make that a steal instead of
it's like that cost certainty, right? So they know they're getting $6 million. Like it's $6 million for the next 5 more years.
It's a long-term deal.
And as the cap rises, it'll probably look nicer too.
6, but
6 more years for Ehlers. But yeah, Connor made a great point as well. They hit on a lot of their draft picks. Not all of them were, top 5, top 3 even. They were later and sort of more in the middle of the first round. They hit on it most of the time. They managed to make some good acquisitions in the meantime as well, and identify some good younger players who are now turning into stars who you have to pay. It's just sort of the nature of a salary cap league. So we'll see where they can go from here, but they won't really be building through the draft this season. So we'll see how they can bounce back next year.